Hello everybody, here's Mr. C, your biology teacher. This is a short screencast for Lab 208, Investigation in Biological Compounds. The intent here is to get you going. It should not take more than 10 minutes to do that demo. It's going to be pretty fast. It will refer to the student guide, the lab report, but my major goal is to show you how easy it is to do that lab actually, and that you can complete it ideally before middle of next week, because we are already started Unit 3 and this is a Unit 2 lab, and we're going to have the next lab coming. So this is really, hey, I show you how to do it, please do it, and you can get your points and we can move on. Alright, so let me change the scenery here a little bit. So where do you find the lab? First, and it's sharing. I double check here. You find it. I'm here now as my student, as my own student. Yeah, you go to content. And I'm waiting for the wheel to spin. If you're not automatically at Lab 208, click here. It's part of Unit 2, Chemistry of Life, 208. Then you scroll all the way to the top. Here's your student guide, the virtual lab, the lab report, and there's even the list to the original recording. So if you want to have it longer, I'm going to glance briefly at the student guide later, but these are the instructions that I will do here now for you. And the virtual lab will go over, and we'll glance briefly at the end at the lab report, so you know where to put things. So if I bring up that lab, here I am. I begin the lab here. Let's pick green. You can always choose your own color. I have a little background here because I want to avoid that you do screenshots from my work. I want you to do it. Okay. So if I see my name popping up in screenshots, that's not good. The workbench here is kind of busy. Let me close this part down here. Here are 4 racks. There's one rack with 4 test tubes. There's another rack with 2, another rack with 3, and another rack with 3 test tubes. On this one here on the right, we have we're going to fill that up with milk. In this one here in the middle with the unknown, we're going to have to find out what's in the unknown. And then we have 2 sets of test tubes. One is here for lipids, a control, and the test for the lipid, and as well as for starch and protein. So let's start filling up these test tubes. First, I like to check the control to fill up with water here. Put some water in the controls here. Okay, and we put that back here. This is a dropper. And now we want to fill up test tube for starch. And I only use one drop always consistently. Now we need something for vegetable oils. We can use the lipid here. This is unfortunately yellow because it has its own color. That's not ideal, but hey, that's what we have. So let's just be aware of that. And we still need, oops, I don't need that. We can put that back in here. We need something for a protein, something that we know contains protein. And here, luckily, we found in our lab a bottle of albumin. Also a little bit yellowish color, but that's all right. So we put that in here. I like to also fill up, because I'm at the filling up stage, the unknown, and there's the bottle with the unknowns here. So with the unknown here, I'll just use that dropper. Every time I click on it, it will suck it up, and then I'll click at it again and it will release it. And we have a rack of milk here, so let's do the milk thing. There's here a pipette. I'm gonna fill that up with milk here. I want to be done with the filling up part. I want to do the fun part. It is checking the colors, using the right liquids, and if you use the wrong ones, you got to start over again. Okay, that's the downside. We cannot pour out the test tube. At least I haven't tried it, so maybe it's possible, but I always start over again if I mess up. So let's see what the natural color is of iodine in water, which gives us our control. So this would be a negative result, right? Obviously, water doesn't have starch in there, so if we get something later when we put iodine into the unknown or in milk that's brown, we know it's not there. However, if we put it in something that we know it has starch in there, it's going to be like this dark purple color. Okay, that's cool. I want to finish the indicators first. So for protein, we need 2 chemicals. One is sodium hydroxide. We're going to put a drop of sodium hydroxide in each of them. Okay, and then we put the real indicator, the copper sulfate. So it needs to be basic. So it's If it's negative, it's going to be this light blue, and if it's positive, it's going to be black, okay, or dark gray. Okay, so if the unknown or the milk shows up as black, we know protein is there. Let's do the last one. Here we have Sudan 3, and we'll put it in our control. Okay, so it's kind of brownish. And then remember now, this is a yellow color, and we put that in here. So it's kind of more reddish. So it's kind of a harder thing. One is more brown, the other one more red. If you have difficulty with colors, I will not give you a hard time on the lipids, okay? Don't worry about that. So now we need to test our unknown and the milk for the presence of safe starch. So we use the iodine, put it in here. We put another iodine drop and put it into the milk. Okay, so put that aside. Now we know the brown one shows that there is no starch in there. So milk tests negative for starch, and the purple one is the positive, right? So and the unknown is positive for starch. So we know the unknown has starch in there. Let's do the same thing for the protein. Remember, it's a bit more complicated. We need to do the sodium hydroxide here. And if you don't want to do it at once and do it one by one, just be very careful in what test tube you put in what indicator. Okay, so here we go. All right, so for copper sulfate we had, I'm sorry, for protein we had negative when it's light blue and positive if it's dark. So we know clearly that the unknown does not have protein, and we know that the milk has protein. So that's pretty cool. We're down to the last test here, Sudan 3, and for the unknown and the milk. Okay, and now that's a bit harder to see, but if you look closely here, the color in the unknown is more close to the control. So I would say it tests negative for lipids, and the color here is kind of brighter, very bright, but it's definitely not this brownish stuff. So I think it's positive for lipids in milk, but that is a challenge, right? So it's definitely, if you look from the distance, none of these two here, but it's definitely not so much brown. It's more on the reddish side, so I would think so it tests as positive. So these are your results. What you have to do then, what I ask you to do is do screenshots of it. So I hope you got familiar with the snipping tool or an equivalent tool or print screen. I have some instruction there too. So in case you use the snipping tool, let me see, it comes up here. You say new snip here. You grab it here and you paste it into the Word document. Well, let's just keep it there and we hop over to the lab report. So I can minimize that, and enjoy the scenery here. The lab report is here. It looks like heavy up here, but I explain, how to take screenshots and whatnot. And please turn on the rubrics because they tell you about how many points you get. All I want you to do is here. Now here's where you're going to insert your screenshot. I select this, delete it, Control V, and paste it in, and it's going to look huge. So you make it smaller. You click on it and drag it down. It's disappearing, but it's up here. So if you make it small enough, it fits nicely in here. You do also the screenshots for the other phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. These are just the various racks that you've seen. And now below you're going to document me the color of starch, the color of protein when it tests positive, right? And the color for lipid when it tests positive. And over here you just need to tell me for each of the unknown and the milk, did it test negative? Well, what color is it? And did it test negative, make an X here, or positive, make an X there. And that part is worth 10 points. Okay, so make it right. If you mess it up, if you put the wrong thing in the wrong test tube, like I say, start over again. Come to the second part, still worth a ton of points. So don't be fooled by these short prompts here. What I want you to do there is go back to the lesson and find out what is a macromolecule. Just don't use the word without explaining it to me. What is starch? By now you know what starch is, and you can tell me in half a sentence what it is, and what is a protein and what is a lipid. So these are 4 I would think easy points, because this is all lesson stuff. You can look it up, okay? It's a lab report. It's not a test. And then I want you to write me sentences, and hopefully you got the right answers for the um, unknown solution and the milk, 2 sentences there, and hopefully it's correct, right? The spell checker should be turned on. Here's an easier question. What's the role of the water in the test tube in phases 1 and 2? Remember, water up here we used here as controls, right? It says here control under. But what is a control? Tell me what it is. Don't just use the word, right? Explain to me what it means. And that's what I always want. Use a correct explanation. Okay. And the last one is, what's a chemical indicator? And this one is the same thing. So what is it? You know, what is it used for? How does it work? These kind of questions here are the ones that should pop up in your head whenever you use a key term. Okay, if you have that in your mind, you can always write about it. What is it? What is it used for? You know, and how does it work? So a couple of sentences there for another 5 points altogether. It's a 29-point lab. So if your grade is currently depressed, and I'm depressed with you because your grade is depressed, it will help you, right? And we want to get that lab done before we start with the next lab, otherwise you're falling more behind. If you don't see the comments for some reason, you need to go to review and then show comments, right? Otherwise they will not show up. They might show up as a bubble. Depending on the word versions you have, it might not show up at all. So show comments. It's also part of markup, so if this is for some reason not clicked, it doesn't show, right? So you need to have the comments shown. That will help you too. And with that, I've talked now, I don't know, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. This whole lab, I'm sure you can get going with this short video. And if you have questions, let me know. Again, don't do the screenshots from my recording here. I will see it because it has a background text there. Do your own work. Should help you. Otherwise, send me a K-mail or let me know. Thank you.